Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Okay, guys, I'm here joined by my usual panel, Tyler Small, Sam Long, Caleb Flagger, and Austin Patilililo. Can't say the name yet. Still haven't got it down. I'll get it down by the end of the season. So the Eagles did win Thursday night, 22-21 against the Giants. Late game magic once again from Boston Scott. Guys, give me your initial reaction to this game. Tell me how you feel. Or is the season saved? Dan, we'll start with you.
I mean, the season's not saved. We're not out of the clear yet. Yeah, I'm happy to get another win on it under our belts, but I mean, that wasn't necessarily a great looking game either. I mean, we could have all gone into this game. I'm pretty sure we all predicted this game to be a win. I know someone said they were going 0-3 this stretch. You said it as a joke. I don't remember which one of you. But yeah, we were all expecting them to win this game. I think as of right now, we're all expecting them to win next game. Let's see what happens when some real competition pops back up.
Yeah, I agree, Sam. That was a really, really ugly win. I mean, that game from start to finish was not pretty at all. But it's also, like you said, it's great to see the Eagles get a win. I mean, we haven't seen one in a little bit, so it's great to see that. It was great because it's an in-division win, and with how bad the division is, division wins are huge. So just having that is great for building for the future for the Eagles, but definitely a good win.
Listen, this game, even though it seems kind of weird to say that it's typical because it was won with less than a minute remaining, getting a dime throw to a 5'6" running back out of the backfield for a game-winning touchdown. But that was typical NFC East football, and it was led by a typical Carson Wentz performance. He had, if you look at the stats going back, we had a little bit more time after doing this episode since it was on Thursday night. 359 yards, completion percentage over 50%, 2 touchdowns to an interception, big numbers out of Wentz. But if you watch that game play for play, it was not as pretty as it seemed on the stat sheet. And that's what Carson Wentz does. He'll make the big play late in the game. He'll make the game-winning drives. But at the end of the day, there were some huge mistakes, including that interception to Bradbury that just throws that you just can't describe or explain.
I'd say the season is saved, but not because of them, but because there were 3 teams in the division are terrible. And, you know, we know what the football team is. They have Kyle Allen, who's a flash in the pan last year. You have the Giants who can't seem to just get anything right. I mean, they've been close so many times and they play teams tough, but they can't seem to get anything right. And you got the Cowboys with Ben DiNucci, some guy from The Sopranos or Goodfellas is playing quarterback for them. You know, I just feel like, and we could be talking about a whole different thing if Evan Ingram just catches the pass, just off the fingertips, you know, that close, because he catches it, it's a first down, they run down the clock, game over. But I would say Boston Scott, per usual, just obliterates the Giants. I mean, what a catch that was at the end. 5'6", you know, whatever he is, to make that kind of catch on that kind of coverage. And that was a good throw too by
Better
Wentz.
Throw, yeah.
It was a good throw, but I thought, you know, for a guy his size to make that catch, that was spectacular. And I mean, they should beat the Cowboys. If they don't beat the Cowboys, I mean, I got nothing if they don't beat the Cowboys.
Well, listen, going off of Tyler's comment about Wentz, typical Wentz game, Wentz is actually, so far this season, one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in the league. He had 5 completions for 121 yards, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Beautiful throw to Boston Scott, of course. But in between, and they came out and they looked like how they did against Washington in the first game of the year, where they went right down the field, scored right away. And then in the middle, there was just nothing. And it seems like that happens on nearly every game. What needs to happen to put together a full game? Imagine if we had a full game from Carson and from the whole team. What's going on in the middle of these games?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best, John. Carson is one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in the league, but it's about that 1, 2, 3 also. I mean, they need to find a way to consistently do something just to get points on the board early in the game. You can't have every game, especially against some of the worst teams in the NFL, come down to a nail biter where Carson needs to make these last-second touchdowns to save the game. This can't be happening every week. I mean, we just need some consistency early on.
I think it all comes down to adjustments. Just to go off team for a little bit, we look at why the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions, who just faced off in a wild fourth quarter finish game, why they always have these second half collapses. It's a lack of adjustments. You come in with a great scheme, you come in with great scripted plays, but that only lasts you for the first 15 plays. After that, when you get into the second half of the game, you need to adjust based off what the other team is doing and what they've changed. And whether that's on Carson Wentz, whether that's on Doug, whether that's on anyone on the coaching staff, it's just that's all the matter is. The defense was solid throughout, and that's also coming on a pretty weak and depleted Giants offense. However, sticking true and holding them to 21 points is huge throughout the whole game because it keeps your offense in it and gives them the opportunity to keep going out there for drives, keep messing up, and still having a chance to win. So it's just all about adjustments, and we don't know who it comes from, but it needs to be done.
Yeah, I feel like consistency is key with that question. I mean, you look at the Redskins game, they started off with that 17-0 lead, and then in the second half, they didn't score any points, nearly got any first downs. Look at the past three games, and the Eagles' second half performance, especially fourth quarter, has been terrific. So, I mean, it's just consistency through the defense, the offense, the coaching staff. All three phases have to be consistent at the same time. I feel like that's been the biggest problem with the Eagles this year is all three phases have not been consistent at the same time, and that's what's really hurt the Eagles this season.
You know, John said something to start off where you know, in this game, like the first game of the season, they went out opening drive, got points, and in the middle, it's kind of just, You know, I think if Eagles fans haven't already, I think they need to come to the realization that that's who Carson Wentz is. It's year 5. He's going to make the spectacular play. And as Tyler says, he has great counting numbers, great yards, touchdowns, all this stuff, all these stats. But, you know, he's going to make the spectacular play where you're like, oh my gosh, this guy has top 5 talent. And he's going to make a dumb play where you're like, this guy is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. You know, I just think that's who he is. And I think the problem with some people is they're attaching him to that MVP season in 2017, I think, a little bit, and thinking he's something better than he is. He's still a good quarterback, but I think in order for this team to get over the hump, obviously, Caleb, as you said, they need to win on offense, win on defense, win on special teams, and the coaching battle too. And I mean, we haven't seen that yet, and they're gonna have a complete game. They're gonna have a complete game this year. I don't know when it's gonna be, but they're gonna have one, and who knows? Maybe it'll be next week against a terrible Cowboys defense. And I mean, you look at it stat by stat, aside from maybe receivers and running backs, the Eagles have the Cowboys beat in everything. So we could see a pretty lopsided game this Sunday night.
See, you say it like they're going to have a complete game. We always have this argument where they're going to have a complete game. You know when they have it? The playoffs. The best game of the season last year for the Eagles was that Seahawks game. And they're just Carson Wentz not getting hurt away from winning that game, you know? So it's just,
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look. I feel like there had to be some game in the regular season where it was like that's the Eagles we know and love.
It was a pretty depressing year last year, to be fair.
It was.
But
17-9 is the most. It's 9 points. I mean, I get it. Wentz was out,
but that's still a complete game. Keeping yourself in, like you can just tell by the again, we talk about the numeric stats that I always love to bring up that I don't even believe in right now. But like, it's just they only see it when you need it, and I don't know what it is about this team, but you got to realize they're playing it too comfortable. I know 5 wins could win you this division, but still need to turn it on a little bit earlier.
They should rest their starters the rest of the year. They'll still make the playoffs.
Listen, I want to push back a little bit on at Austin's point about, you know, this is who Wentz is. Is this who Doug is? Is Doug more to blame? Because I'm seeing red zone plays that I don't even know what they're designed to do. Quarterback runs with Wentz on a 3rd and 10 or whatever it was. I think Doug is a lot to blame for the mid-game woes where nothing happens because his play calling is so uninspiring halfway through these games. But does anybody else see what I'm seeing? Or
yeah, Doug is the F word, and I don't want to say it, but Doug's a fraud. I think the Super Bowl run was an anomaly carried by Frank Reich. I mean, we've seen it past few years. This is who Doug is, and Doug got bailed out by Wentz, Boston Scott, and Evan Ingram. If those things didn't happen, You're losing to the Giants. Like, come on, dude. I don't see it with Doug. And I mean, I really never did, honestly.
I mean, I think calling him a fraud is, I don't know about that one because
He's a fraud. He wrote a book called Fearless. He's coaching like the most conservative coach I've ever seen. Stick to your word.
Yeah, my thing is though on that is that guy, he hasn't had a complete it's injury riddled roster for the past 2 or 3 years. Where every week he's got to change his scheme, his game plan. I mean, there's big players coming out of every one of these games. I mean, if you look at the roster they had this year, I mean, the whole offensive line's out besides Jason Kelsey. You have you have rookie wide receivers that were drafted in the 5th and 6th round starting for you, an undrafted wide receiver out of last year, Travis Fulgham, who's breaking out. But I mean, you have all these injuries, and that's what I put the biggest blame on here is the injuries. I mean, for me, you can't create a solid game plan consistently every week when you have this amount of injuries occurring on your roster every week. If it showed it back in 2017 when they won the Super Bowl, when they had a pretty good, they didn't get injured that much besides the Carson Wentz injury, but when they have most of their players, Doug is pretty consistent in the game calling when he can have the players he has every week. So, I mean, the changing of players every week definitely doesn't help him.
They got injured a lot in that 2017 season. Peters, when he was still good and out of turnstile, was out. They had a few defensive injuries. I mean, obviously Wentz got hurt at the end. That whole thing was underdogs, blah, 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 next man up. You know, they put it on the championship DVDs that you get, you know, all that stuff. I mean, it's been the theme with the Eagles 4 years in a row. Injuries, and they look good with injured guys for the most part, dating back to 2017. I mean, I don't know what's going on right now other than that they're losing some of the staff from that Super Bowl team. And that just leads me to believe that Doug Peterson is a fraud.
See, that's fair. That's fair. And I just have to say it. Yes, the Eagles have been injury depleted, and it always happens in one facet. I think that's the most difficult part. I mean, you always see it on the offensive side for them for some reason. But at the end of the day, every team gets injured. It's kind of how
every team.
I don't know who said it, but a championship is the best team remaining, not the best team on paper to start the season. And I think if we just go back to Doug, because we kind of got lost from that topic, I don't think Doug's a fraud. I think that he is just overthinking himself throughout this, whatever has happened since 2017. I mean, if you look at it again, if you just look at the raw production numbers, Boston Scott, we're giving him a great game, 12 carries, 46 yards, 3.8 yard average. 12 carries. This is the same thing with Miles Sanders every week. Doesn't get enough touches. Richard Rodgers led the team in receptions. The third string tight end. The Eagles know how to bring up tight ends, but yet they don't trust them in games. This is just a simple thing. He had 85 yards reception. He was probably one of the most valuable players on this offensive front, maybe even in the whole game. And he doesn't get enough targets. He only had one target that he didn't catch. So it's just coming to them going over complexity in every facet of the game. And if they simplify their game plan like they used to back in 2017, I think we'll see a lot different results.
Well, we see these tendencies with Doug. I mean, I remember in 2017, you know, some guy stood outside the NovaCare complex holding a sign saying "Run the ball." Yeah. You know, when they had LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi and all that stuff. I mean, Doug hates running the ball. He's like the I don't know who runs Stanford, I guess. I don't know.
And that's analytics. Like that's he's getting lost in a transition of the numbers and just pure football because he came in as a pure football guy. He believed in some of the numbers that he liked going for it on fourth down percentages, 2-point conversion percentages. But yet at the end of the day, this aerial attack that you see so many teams winning with, they just don't have the arsenal for that. With Deshaun Jackson coming back, that's a huge plus. Alshon Jeffrey hopefully will come back soon. But besides that, you got to play with your strengths as opposed to what the numbers say about a good team.
And can we talk about Deshaun Jackson for a second? I mean, that guy is made out of styrofoam. Like he comes in one play and
you cannot blame him for that injury. That was a cheap hit.
But it's just still, I mean, like it's over and over with this.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you gotta take him out back. You gotta take him out.
That was definitely
behind the shed.
Eagles uniform, 100%.
I think so too. Yeah. You could tell even the way he reacted too. He seems like he's just overly frustrated. But I do appreciate what you said, Tyler. There is something to be said about Doug's ability to coach up these guys. Like Richard Rodgers is having a low-key a great year, and Boston Scott obviously is a giant killer. But that same kind of production, you don't see that with Jim Schwartz in the defense, and you see undisciplined. You see 80-yard runs from Daniel Jones which I don't know what happened there. And it seems like plays like that happen every week. And besides Brandon Graham, who's having a great season, and besides a few other guys, this defense just doesn't really produce on a consistent basis. And I want to know if you guys think that's the biggest problem for this team going forward, or is it, just something that they can deal with?
I think.
Yeah, I mean, besides for the defensive line, every aspect of the Eagles' defense has been probably atrocious. I mean, if you look at the defensive line, is producing a lot of sacks. They're one of the top teams in sacks for the league this year, but their linebacker core is god awful. I mean, you look at it, Nathan Gary has given up so many yards and touchdowns and coverage. It's insane. To me, it's the lack of even giving enough attention to the linebacker core through free agency, through the offseason. They did not give enough attention to that position. To me, that's what's been killing them for most of the season is the not enough experience at the linebacking group.
I would say minus Darius Slay and the edge rushers, the defense as a whole is not good. I mean, it's Halloween, ghost time. Where's Fletcher Cox been? Where's Javon Hargrave been? These guys are MIA. They're on the side of a milk box or whatever, I just think, and it's been the same, just like with Doug, it's been the same thing with Jim Schwartz. Everybody's clamoring for this guy to get fired, because they see the jig, they see what he is. He's not a great coach. And I just feel like, I think, you see, this is the thing with the Eagles, and, you're in the spot where you do lead the division, and, you will probably make the playoffs. Do you give up assets to, get a good linebacker at the trade deadline? I don't know. It's kind of it's a tough position you're in.
I think they go with the lineup they have on the field and just run with that, see what happens. I agree with the linebacker play. I think it's a huge asset to this team that they're really struggling in, but you see all the love nowadays on defense going to the free and strong safeties. I mean, Budda Baker is putting up numbers for the Arizona Cardinals right now for Defensive Player of the Year. Tyrann Mathieu, beloved, both when he was a Cardinal and then when he was a Chief. Just all these teams that have these stellar defenses are led by that vocal leader, that mobile leader on the back of your secondary. Jalen Mills and Rodney McLeod are not that, and that is the number one asset. The reason of that 80-plus yard that should have been a touchdown for Daniel Jones was because of them. They both bit in a cover two to the right side, or left side of the field, I should say. And even though it was a simple pullback, nobody responded properly. It looks bad on the middle linebackers because they're the ones that get beat. But at the end of the day, it comes from your leader in the backfield telling you what the play is or what's going to happen throughout it, or just not even reacting. So they need someone strong in the secondary, because without that, it makes this Slay trade look like nothing, because you're only guarding their best receiver now, and the rest of the field can light you up.
And here's the thing. Nate Gary, coming out of Nebraska, drafted him as a safety. Mm-hmm. He's now a linebacker. How are you a converted safety and you can't cover anybody? Yep. What sense does that make? I agree with you, Tyler. I mean, the leader of the defense has to come from the back end. You look at it, almost every team in the NFL, their best defensive player is in the back end usually. I mean, look at my Panthers. Jeremy Chin, defensive rookie of the year, maybe. Mm-hmm. Good safety. They can use a guy like that. But you know what? Guess what? They drafted Jalen Hurts. So.
Yeah, apparently Jim Schwartz was pushing for your boy Jeremy Chin, but how he wanted Hurts. So.
Oh well, I'm not complaining.
All right, so we're gonna have to wrap up Eagles talk soon here. I want to touch on a couple of things though. One optimistic thing and one kind of pessimistic. So this receiving core, I think this is a big strength of the team now. Tell me if I'm wrong, but young and putting up some pretty impressive numbers. Fulgham, obviously, I think he had 5 catches for like 70-something yards. Greg Ward is a great slot guy, and even John Hightower had another 50-yard catch, which was, I think, this receiving core is a pretty big strength for the team right now. I want to know what your guys' impressions is on them.
Yeah, Travis Fulgham. I mean, he's got the second most receiving yards for an Eagle through the first first 4 games. So I mean, right behind Terrell Owens. So I mean, Travis Fulgham, I mean, is probably the unsung hero of this season so far. I mean, for me as a fan, it's so fun actually watching a wide receiver catch the ball instead of dropping it, just like every other Eagles receiver has done the past couple of years. But I mean, like you said, John, you got John Hightower, rookie, young. Greg Ward, very good slot guy. He's young. To me, you got Jalen Reagor also coming back from injury soon. So if you add to me one more solid wide receiver to that young group they have, I mean, you got a pretty legit wide receiver corps there for the future to come.
You know what I see? I could see in the future Rager and Fulgham both on the outside. That's your new Deshaun and Macklin, and those two are very good together. You got Deshaun, a.k.a. Jalen Rager, is the speed guy. You got Fulgham, a.k.a. Jeremy Macklin, is the possession guy. And you have a pretty good slot wide receiver in Greg Ward, too. I really like Greg Ward in this offense for what he has gone through, getting called up and sent down to the practice squad 8,000 times to finally, showing out in the NFL. I love it for him. I love Greg Ward. I think he's a very good player.
Yeah, I mean, Rager has been catching balls recently. His cast is off on his thumb. I think we're going to have him back real soon. I think he might be the missing piece to this offensive puzzle right now. I'm really thinking once he comes back, things might not completely come together. I still have my doubts, but something might click for this team, and we might start seeing these 4-quarter games of just above average play.
And once you get Goddard back, whenever that is,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Goddard's better than Ertz. I think we all agree on that. I think Ertz is
be back in
Ertz is out of his mind asking for top 3 tight end money.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to put that out there. He is out of his mind for that.
Out of his mind, out of his prime. I think you're 100% right. All this young depth that we have from the receiving core. But at the end of the day, I think above all else, you still haven't gotten production from what some coaches say is the most talented wide receiver on this lineup, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I know I might get a couple of weird looks from that. I swear coaches say that he has the purest talent. It just hasn't clicked yet. So they have all this production coming, whether it was just good scouting or they actually have good wide receiver coaching. I think he could turn into something as well.
They're covering their you-know-whats for that terrible pick when they could have had DK Metcalf, who looked like a freaking freight train last night, chasing down Buda Baker.
Yeah, to me, there's no way J.J. Arcega-Whiteside ever pans into anything. I mean, his only touchdown of the season was a lucky. He was lucky he followed Miles Sanders on that touchdown to even get that. I mean, the guy
celebrated he did it.
First catch of the season with like 5 seconds left on the clock. He's celebrating. I mean, the guy, he's a bum. I mean, definitely.
I'm just saying that this is a guy that they brought in that they thought he had the best. He thought they were better than Ward. They thought he had better skills, especially because Ward became a slot receiver. In that body, he has no business being as good as he is in the slot. So it's unbelievable. Like, he's got the production. That's where they wanted Arcega-Whiteside to be. But I'm just saying what the coaches say or what I've heard. I don't know if I agree, but he has that pure talent.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's what Doug's saying, get him out. It's time for him to leave. Go be an offensive analyst at like Tennessee or something.
I'm sure JJ has the potential. That's just not going to be exploited until he's off the Eagles. We're going to see him go to another team. I mean, Aguilar is playing 10 times better than he did with the Raiders right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a Philly thing.
Not to, attack a personal character. Nobody's going to succeed with a name like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
That's such a good name. Stop it.
Yeah.
Vega.
Calvin Johnson, Jerry Rice, even DK Metcalf, like, those are names that you can catch a ball with. Arcega-Whiteside, never going to happen. I didn't want to, that's too personal. There's no room for that on this show. And the last thing I want to touch on, we got to wrap up Eagles talk real fast. Just give me like a quick yes or no. Is there a problem at kicker for this team right now? Jake Elliott missed another 29-yard. Last 5 here. Got some weird questions here. First question actually is kind of normal. Is this the craziest World Series ending we've ever seen in Game 4 of the World Series with the Rays walking off?
Not even
I guess
close.
Tyler.
Not even close.
See, this World Series was, and I love baseball more than anything in this world, it was a snooze fest for the majority of the games, just because it's exactly what we expected. The Rays and the Dodgers are exactly the same team, except the Dodgers have money and the Rays don't. So they just have the better product, and it's just shown throughout. First off, Tyler Glasnow is overrated. He has a 6.79 ERA. Let's stop talking about him so much. But better yet, it's just been pure pitching, but that game was unbelievable. Brett Phillips, look him up. One of the best laughs you'll ever see. It's incredible. That was an incredible game.
I disagree with you, Tyler. Not that it was not an incredible game, but I've seen better finishes courtesy of these guys back here. Game 6, 2011. Well, that was more elongated, but 2013 World Series, Game 3, the obstruction call, Alan Craig, where Will Middlebrooks, his feet up, had him tripped. That was nuts.
Oh, yeah. No, and the series hasn't had that yet, But then we get to this game where every other game before it was such a snoozer. And before that last play, it was incredible back and forth. I mean, Brendan Lau, the diving play off his glove, that looked like the Dodgers had the series in the bag right there. Just an up and down roller coaster game. I think, but John Smoltz said that it was the best game that didn't clinch a World Series in World Series history. I think that's a stretch, but it was still a very incredible game.
There was a good game, I think 2017, Dodgers Astros. It was like 10-9, just bombs.
Yeah, oh yeah.
In the 12th inning, it was like 2 a.m. The game was still going on. But also, kudos Clayton Kershaw. Nice little redemption story.
It's out of his hands now. It's out of his hands.
Unless Dave Roberts, for some reason, puts him in Game 7, 9th inning, which Dave Roberts isn't that good of a man. Pass him.
Okay, got to move along here. Next question. Dallas, awful game. Obviously, Andy Dalton and then the other guy, Italian mob guy. So should Dallas make a trade at quarterback if you were Jerry Jones, like a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yes. So they have 2 options right now. I don't mean to cut you off. Both of these are veterans that are benched by their younger counterparts. So we have 2 guys here. We have Fitzmagic and we have Tyrod Taylor. I mean, 2 guys who could fit in that offensive scheme without any problem.
Why would they ever give up a guy like Tyrod?
Beats me. Why would they ever put him not as the starter?
Okay, I want to hear an actual trade. He goes to the Cowboys for Noah Brown, a receiver that wasn't used in his best way, shape, or form throughout. They need a different presence for depth. That's just going to be a straight up trade.
I'd say they should get Fitz, but no matter who they trade for, they won't be ready for the Eagles game this Sunday. I think because of COVID protocols.
Yeah.
You got to do 5 days. So we're gonna see some Ben DiNucci on Sunday.
Yes, we are.
My fellow Italiano.
2 weeks from now, it's going to be Tyrod time.
Caleb, I'll give you this question. The Eagles probably going to make the playoffs. Would you rather see them make the playoffs with a terrible 6-9-1 record, or would you rather see them tank and get a high draft position this year?
Personally, I'd rather see him make the playoffs. I mean, I love watching playoff games. Anything can happen in the playoffs. You never know. You saw the Giants. They've made the Super Bowl as a wild card team before. So anything can happen in the playoffs, especially with the Eagles. As the season goes along, they should have more key players coming back. So they should be getting better as the season's going along. So I'd rather them make the playoffs this year.
All right. Fast 5 is no more this week. We got to just settle for like a restless 3, something like that. Because we are at the cap. Thank you guys for joining us this week on SportsTalk Philadelphia. It's Dallas week, baby. So tune in this Sunday, prime time, baby. Get ready. We'll be back here next week talking all about it. Check out the social medias. We'll put it there somewhere. Still don't have that memorized. All right. Thanks for watching.